So we've had a look at how you could increase your productivity by managing your tasks, your to-dos, your emails in a centralized format. But stress is something that a lot of people do struggle with, particularly when we get to busy times like summer holidays. So Phil Watson, our resident HR expert, is on hand to talk to us a little bit about managing stress and some of the things that we can do to just make our lives a little bit easier. So I'm going to hand over to you, Phil. Thank you.
Good afternoon, it's Phil from HR Unlimited. I'm feeling a bit, sounding a bit grumbly and feeling a bit grumpy today. So I've scripted myself today so I don't go too far off piece, because I've got man flu. It can happen even in the medical profession. So yes, I did want to address what you've said, Simon, is massively relevant to what I'm going to say. It'll kind of come around in 360 degrees to that. But I think first off, stress, anxiety, depression, it's worth exploring the differences between those three terminologies. They often get conflated by individuals and employers, and there are three very distinct aspects of a similar issue that's going to apply to work lives, and it's exacerbated. I mean, it's a particular problem in modern life anyway, but it's exacerbated clearly with the current lockdown, semi-lockdown, working from home, not working from home, working from home some days, working from the office other days. All of that can lead to stressful situations. So let's just define what anxiety, depression, and stress are. So those of you with medical knowledge can go in and make a cup of tea right now, but the rest of us, that includes me, which is why I'm reading from a script. So everybody feels these emotions: stress, anxiety, and if you're very unlucky, depression at some time. And they're all common reactions to life's challenges, whether that's losing a loved one, going through a divorce, or in modern times when there are uncertainties, as there are now, around health, around the economy at large, around your job, around finances. These all become tipping points for triggering a chain reaction, and that's exactly what we have, and it starts with stress. So the important thing to remember, so we don't get it out of balance, is that it's stress which then can lead to anxiety, and by and large that can then lead to depression. Anxiety and depression can coexist. However, it's stress that we were talking about, that Simon was talking about, and that we're talking about a little bit later on. So stress and anxiety, they're not the same thing, and doctors, I have to say, even GPs, in my experience, conflate the two and write them on sick notes. They're not the same, and the difference is that stress is a natural response to daily pressures or threatening situations, whilst anxiety is a reaction to the stress. So can you see that it's there's a more or less a straight line relationship? So if we can attack stress, we can head off anxiety at the pass, and if we stop anxiety, we can often avoid depression. So anxiety's got no clear cause. It tends to last longer and be more difficult to treat than stress. Stress, you can stress bust. We use that all the time. You can go out and beat the bejesus out of your punch bag, or you can go out for a good run, or you can do something else that relieves stress. And it's all good, valid stuff. Hitting the bottle isn't. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm a man of experience in that area, but it will not cure your stress. It merely parks it and gives you something else to worry about, i.e. a hangover usually. So stress affects a lot of people, and the symptoms include headaches, high blood pressure, that'll be me then, chest pain, not so far, heart palpitations, skin rashes, and loss of sleep. Hands up anyone who's not experienced that. I thought not. So stress typically goes away when the stressor disappears. Hence, going for a run or sticking pins in your eye or any kind of distraction technique will get rid of stress to a degree. Chronic stress, however, does escalate into anxiety and possibly into depression. So it's important to take steps to reduce that stress. So Simon touched upon one of those, and we're going to come full circle shortly. But how else can we reduce stress? And what's the difference between stress and anxiety? So anxiety, as opposed to depression, anxiety tends to present itself as fear, panic, in situations where most people would not feel fear or panic. A constant nagging worry or anxiousness, sudden panic attacks or anxiety attacks without any clear trigger. So as you can see, anxiety starts to present itself if you don't address stress. And untreated, all of these disorders can limit your ability to work and function as a family member, as a partner, and in society at general. And it is the real truth that it's a malaise of modern living, and particularly inherent with the current situation. So depression is slightly different, and we get into the very nasty end of the scale. Depression often has symptoms of discouragement, sadness, hopelessness, anger, lack of motivation, or just interest in life in general, and that includes your job, insomnia, low energy levels, and feeling overwhelmed by daily tasks and personal interaction. So we can see where it's starting to come full circle what Simon's saying about organising the workload, about having structure, about being able to have something a bit more sophisticated than the tick lists, which are on all over my desk. Actually, if the camera would pick them up. If the feelings that I've just described last longer than a couple of weeks and they interfere with daily activities, then you are having a depressive episode, and you really do need to, if you haven't already, seek medical advice, and not from just some geezer in a white coat, from a proper medico, someone who can help you with your situation. And there are a lot of people on LRS who know exactly such a person, and several people. So please, 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 if you have those kind of issues, do get in contact if you haven't already got the contacts with the professionals that can help you. So why is right now a great time for Tracy to put this on the agenda, for Simon to be talking about it? So as an employer, what can you do? Well, obviously, in the current situation, if your employees can't work from home, then you can help to reduce stress by ensuring that the workplace is COVID secure, follow government guidelines. Not sure where you've been if you don't know where to find those government guidelines, but again, you can contact anyone at the LRS team who will help you with that. And your professional body will, I'm sure, be offering good, common sense, focused support for a COVID secure workplace. If you have got employees who are back at work, but do have a lot of background issues, and child support is the obvious one right here, right now, or perhaps a partner who's at home for whatever reason, furloughed, possibly out of a job, all of those things are going to make working from home quite difficult, and understandably ramp up people's stress levels. So what can you do as an employer? Okay, you can be flexible in your approach where you can. I accept and understand that many businesses are hanging on a thread. So I understand the business owner's frustration when the government says, get out there, go forth and work, open up your offices. However, you know, your survival, chances of survival may be thwarted, but you need to look at the reasons for the individual's reluctance to come back to work or inability to work efficiently at home. And it may be that the home workspace might not be the ideal environment for working. So you need to ask as an employer, what are the blockers? Is it a safe space? Is it free from electrical, potential for electrical issues, fire issues, carbon monoxide poisoning, slips and trips? Are there seating positions, working position problems? Is your data secure? Have a look at that. Let's not beat about the bush. These are all the employer's responsibilities, nobody else. So if you're not addressing that, or if you haven't addressed it now, these are not difficult things to address. There may also be stress leading to the fact that schools, nurseries, childcare might be an issue. It might be an issue right now. it might be an issue in September or whatever the newspapers are telling us. You may be faced with local lockdowns if there's a second spike locally. So what can you do as an employer to help relieve the stress? Well, you can reassure your employees. You can explore occasional emergency time off for dependents. That is everyone's statutory right, but you also perhaps need to take advice as to when emergency time off is so frequent that it really stops being an emergency and becomes the norm. So you might need guidance with that. You can explore parental unpaid leave. You can explore using holidays. You can explore talking to your employees and finding out exactly what the situation is and what the blockers are. It doesn't mean to say you have to be a bleeding heart, pink and fluffy HR person. It just means you have to listen to what people's specific issues are and where you can meet them in the middle, because the alternative is potential people going off sick with anxiety about not being able to satisfy you as an employee. Workload, once again, Teams, any of your CRM systems that you use, fantastic for helping with workload. But as an employer, you can make sure that workload is reasonably achievable. If you're going to set stretching targets, make sure they're not impossible. They are stretching. There's a difference. And your perspective on a stretching target might well be very different to the employee's perspective of a stretching target. Consider flexible working. It doesn't have to be permanent necessarily, although everyone has the legal right, all employees have the legal right to request that. Then it's better to agree a temporary reduction in hours or different working times than to lose someone to sickness or to see them spin off through that cycle of stress, anxiety, depression. Organisation, if you're at work, then organisation of social distancing, being mindful of transportation to work issues and parking issues if people are choosing not to use public transport, the monitoring of possible COVID symptoms and testing. If your employees are not confident in your ability to address all of these measures, it's going to lead to mistrust and potential stress, and so it grows. Communication and positive reaffirmation of people's worth. Positive strokes, that's what your team need. Meaningful target setting and guidance where there are performance issues. That's vital, keeping the communications open. Team is fantastic for that, but there are all sorts of other ways of doing that. But I would ask all employers to respect the fact that, if a standard working day is being adhered to, then please don't be firing out emails at all time of the night because you're a go-getting business person, because they will ping into people's phones, they will ping onto their iPads, they will be tempted to have a look at that while they're catching up on EastEnders or the latest costume drama. So all of these ideas are tried and tested, and you may well be using them already, but it'll stand you in good stress. In good stead, to do a stress audit and see if you can improve. It is a no-brainer that happy, relaxed and secure employees are more productive and better contributors to the workplace, to their families, than their stressed counterparts. So why would you not? So it's a bit of a cri de coeur, but it's also a very passionate request to genuinely look at what you can do as an employer to reduce the stress in your employees. And also look in the mirror now and again, because we are all stressed because we have been trying to hold a business together for a long time. And the green shoots, albeit it's chucking it down with rain, the green shoots are taking some time to reappear. So make sure that you apply these stress busting techniques to themselves. So that's it. That's the sermon for the day on behalf of Maximity and the LRS crew. Thank you for listening to me, and I'm sorry it was a little bit scripted. But, so what can I say? I've got man flu.
Phil, thank you so much. There was a massive amount of information in that session. I really thank you for it, because people really are struggling right now, and people who you wouldn't expect to struggle are struggling, and some people that you thought would struggle are not. They're coping with it. So it is a very weird time. And I saw an article on LinkedIn the other day that was along these lines of sort of stress, anxiety, depression. And it said that in times like this, you go through 3 phases. You go through like a war room phase, where it's all hands to the pump and everybody's doing everything that they can to mobilise action and get going. But when that's gone on for a long time, or when you start to come out of it, you go into what they call a regression phase. And the regression phase is where you feel you just hit the floor. And it's almost like, you know, all your energy's gone, you're completely flat because you've put so much effort in trying to keep going that you have nothing left to give. And you go through that regression phase before you come back up into a recovery phase. And, you know, I think that's very similar to what you're saying. And we really do have to watch everybody's mental health right now, personally and professionally, and just help people as best you can. So thank you for that. It was invaluable.